It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com and you get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator. You can also catch your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend cheating online. You send me their email address and I'll trace it back to online dating websites. We'll catch them cheating online. Asset searches, background reports, criminal record searches, all kinds of fun stuff. You know, that's what we're here for. Check out OppermanReport.com, where we have exclusive content that you won't hear on Friday nights or on Saturday nights. Speaking of Saturday nights, tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will have former Congresswoman Dr. Cynthia McKinney and former presidential candidate. We're going to be talking mostly about the Clintons, what they did in Haiti, but also I want to get her point of view of what went on here in Nevada. That's all the rage here in town, of what went on last week in Nevada. Now, I know we just spent a great deal of time speaking with Jesse Spey, who's running for Congress here in Nevada, and then with Ashley Cardelli, who's a very, very nice woman, by the way. And then good old Reverend Pinckney, and then Conchita Sarnoff. I'm going to cover everything I know about what went on here in Nevada from the time of the caucus to the convention, to the second convention, the state, first county convention, and then the state convention. Everything that I know, because I want to get it all on record. Now, I know we've been talking about this a lot tonight, and I apologize, but I have very few opportunities to put together these shows for you, and I want to get this on the record. I want to get it up on iHeart and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to get into this right away, and then hopefully some announcements too. Okay, let's see. All right, you might remember earlier in the year, before we had the caucus here in February 20th in Clark County, Nevada, I was running around all over the place, and I was covering the Bernie rallies, and we were covering the Hillary rallies and the Trump rallies here, and I broadcast a lot of them live from the events. And a week before the caucus, we went to a Bernie rally. There's about 5,000, 6,000 people there. Then a couple of days after that, we went to a Hillary rally, and there was less than 600 people at this rally. But not only that, some of the people that were there were these union guys that were bussed in from California. And as a matter of fact, when they were bussed in, they didn't even know that Hillary was going to be there. They were wearing their construction helmets and their belts and stuff like that. Helmets, construction hats. They're hard hats, not helmets. I don't want to sound like Ted Cruz, like an idiot. Okay, but they were wearing the construction hats and they had their tools with them and stuff because they thought they were there to work. You know, they were bussed in to fill the room up because she couldn't fill up a room with 600 people. I couldn't stay with the whole thing. I had to leave. Listen to her. They're whining and screaming. Also, too, before the caucus, we would go around like to the Trump caucus training, like the precinct captain training, and the caucus training at the Hillary camp. They didn't even have one as far as I know, but the Democratic Convention had one. And then we went to the one for the Bernie group. And when we would go to the Bernie headquarters for their caucus training, it would be overflow out to the parking lot. Okay? Like we couldn't even get in. Then you might remember I had on Nolan Dalla, and he gave us a report about receiving these push-pull calls from the Hillary campaign, these unethical push polls where they were trying to tell people that Bernie was against immigration and he was going to lose anyway and all that kind of stuff. Then you might remember we had Erin Bilbray who's the Nevada superdelegate that came. So the first superdelegate that came out in favor of Bernie. We had her on the show. And you might remember how she described how she was getting angry phone calls from Hillary supporters and that they were calling her dad. Her dad was a former congressman here in Nevada. And they were calling up her dad, yelling at him about his daughter leaving the camp and doing the wrong thing. So February 20th comes rolling around, and every poll in town here had Bernie the winner. Even, remember, he was on a roll. He was winning everything over and over. And he was doing really good. And every poll, and he came out and he says, we're confident we're going to win Nevada. Every poll had him winning Nevada. Every rally had him winning Nevada. The day of the caucus, the entrance polling had him ahead in Nevada. So I went down there and I registered to vote as a Democrat for the first time in my life. Okay? And I went down there, and I'm observing the process. You get down there early. And it's a big school, and they put you in a high school. And there's all these lines. Everybody in charge seemed to be wearing a Hillary t-shirt. Okay, first of all, was the first thing I noticed. And it's kind of confusing which line to get on, who knows. So I was on one line first, and I got on another line. And by a stroke of luck, when I got to the head of the line, the guy was a Bernie supporter who was checking me in. And what they do is they check to see if you're registered. If you're not, you can go register that day. There was another line for that. And then they tell you what room to go to, and they give you this card, like a ballot card. Now, there's no number on the card. You don't have to sign it. There's no barcode on it, nothing. It's just a card that anybody back there could have a whole stack of cards in the trunk of their car and give to their friends. There's no accounting for this that I could see. So the guy gives you a card and he tells you what room to go to, where your precinct is, where you're the people that should be practically your next door neighbors. These should be people you walk in there and kind of recognize. Okay? I didn't recognize one person in my room, and I know everybody. I'm involved in everything around here. Stick out my nose in everybody's business. Everybody got their nose in my business, really. Okay? So you go in there, and you do your little, they were waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Then they do a vote to see which side you're on. And then and if people are undecided, you have an opportunity to make a little speech and try and convince them. Now, there was a lot of things that were wrong in our little precinct room to begin with. First of all, there were two precinct captains. The Hillary camp had two precinct captains, and then we only had one. Then you're waiting and waiting and waiting for hours. We're sitting there waiting for the whatever the guy, the chairperson to come. Who's going to run the thing? Who supposedly knows the rules and what's going on. But one flaw in this system is, okay. By the way, too, there was video too of them escorting a whole bunch of people, Hillary delegates in there who were not registered. Okay, and they says, okay, don't worry, we'll register them after, and they brought them right in. There's about 15 of them. Then there's a YouTube video of that. This is what all went on that day that we saw. But what could have went down that you didn't see is if I'm the guy sitting there at the laptop checking people in, and let's say they bust in a whole load of these union guys from California, just like they had done the week before that I witnessed with my own eyes. Okay? No one reported on that. I saw it. I reported on it. But let's say they did the same thing and they busted in a bunch of California union guys to this Nevada convention. And when they got to the guy up at the laptop there checking people in, he was in on it. And he knew, because they ask you, you're going to be for Bernie or Hillary. He knew which rooms needed more Hillary people to fill up, to make it a close, or for them to win close. He would just give them the card. Now all the ID part is done. I just checked your ID and I gave you a card. Now go walk to that room. That's where they need people in that room over there. No, go to the other one. I'll tell them where to go. Okay, I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this could have happened very, very easily. from my own firsthand eyewitness of what went on that day. When you get into the room, no one's even checking to see if you're in the right room. I could have went to any room I wanted to. But now I'm in the room. Again, no checking to see if I have 2 ballots in my hand or 1 ballot. You know what I'm saying? Then at the end, there was all kind of confusion too, because you had to vote on the delegates, and they almost forgot to do it, and then there was paperwork that wasn't turned in, and I showed the guy, and said, hey, look, it says right here you got to turn this in. It says here right on the card. We're supposed to hand this in. Yeah, I'm telling him what to do? Somehow, Bernie loses Nevada. And I'm in all the private Bernie groups on Facebook, both nationally and here in Nevada. And there was a million horror stories about people that were registered, but they were being told that they couldn't be found, and all that kind of stuff. Now, you might remember the next day there was going to be a rally down at they were trying to decide what to do. Should we do it down at the courthouse, or should we do it at Democratic National Headquarters, State Headquarters over there on Dean Martin? Should we do it at the federal courthouse over on Las Vegas Boulevard? And in one of these private groups, they decided, let's organize this rally. Now, do you remember around that time I told you the story about how we used to do that segment with the Bernie girl? Remember, we had Mackenzie Scott on here. We had Maria Sandoval. We had Brady Morris. A couple other ones. To do the segment with the Bernie girl. And the idea for that was you bring somebody on who's attractive. So then when I say on the radio, oh, well, look how beautiful she is, people go visit the website to look at the picture. Okay? And then the person you're talking to, they're a friendly person, they're outgoing, they're fun to be with. They're fun, right? They're a fun person. So that way people present it in their mind that, hey, these Bernie events are fun events to go to. I should go to one. Okay, this is marketing. All right? And I contacted this woman. I told you the whole story about how I contacted her. I says, hey, do you want to be one of the Bernie girls? This is how it works. You can promote yourself. You can promote your business. You come on. We're looking for attractive people. You post your picture on the website. Blah, blah, blah. And she gets into this whole tiff about she doesn't use her protesting for promoting her business. And she doesn't, what do I think is attractive? Stuff like that. Anyway, so she was being rude, and I said, okay, forget it. Now, this is something I do 10,000 times. All day long, we're trying to book guests in here. We're trying to book segments on here. And you send this kind of email out, right? There's never a problem before. But this one, this Angie Morelli, takes a screenshot of my chat, posts it on her Facebook, and all day long, she's doing this whole troll bit on Facebook about that I did something wrong by inviting her to come on an audition to come on the show. Okay? Now, at the same time, we're trying to win this private Facebook group where we're trying to organize a rally for protest what happened at the caucus. So Angie Morelli comes in there and she says, well, I can't support this rally and I can't be a part of this rally because it's not going to be good enough. And I don't have time to be distracted by a rally that's not good enough. So she spent the whole day trolling, not just me on her own Facebook page, but trolling the rally about why she wouldn't get involved because her time is too important trolling me, but her time is too important that she couldn't get involved in this rally. So finally, she became such a nuisance, they kicked her out of the group promoting the rally. Okay, now keep that in mind because this is going to come up later on in the story. I tell you these things for a reason. Now, you might remember then, fast forward now to the Clark County Convention. That was just a few weeks ago, and it was on the day that William Ramsey was filling in for me on American Freedom Radio. Okay? Because my plan was I was going to go down and be a delegate. Because I was elected an alternate delegate. at the thing. Now, by fate, I woke up that morning and I had a dead battery. Okay, and I couldn't get down there because you had to be there really early, And I did a show the night before. I couldn't register the night before. And there was all kinds of shenanigans registering the night before as well. They were giving people letters saying they didn't have to come after they registered. They were giving these Bernie people letters saying, well, once you've registered tonight, you don't have to show up tomorrow. All kinds of crap like that. So the next day, my battery's dead. I can't get down there. And I got one of these battery booster jump start things, right? But it wasn't charged up to 100%. It was only like 80%. I charged it up. And then I tried to do it again. It wasn't charged up enough. Then it was down to 40%. It took like 2 hours to charge up. So, okay, I'm going nuts. So I go to the Bernie group and I say, listen, I need a ride. You got to give me a ride down there. So all these people like Crystal Glass and Christine Kramer and Angie Sullivan, all these people and a couple others were trying to get me a ride to get down there. So we're talking on the phone, saying, well, do you need a ride? Well, no, my battery's almost charged. I don't know. And as we're talking, I'm hearing the whole story about what went on the night before at the convention. They're talking, we're just talking about getting a ride. They have no idea who I am. They got the radio show. They don't know anything about this stuff. And they're telling me, yeah, last night they had a secret meeting, a closed hearing, to vote all the Bernie supporters off the credentialing committee. And they were threatening to call the police on me and all that stuff like this. And I'm saying, whoa. And she goes, yeah, so we don't know what's going to happen when we go down there. We're going to try and get in there and get this overturned. But, they're threatening to call the cops. I'm interfering with the things. And I said, well, maybe I should stay here and report about this on the air. And I says, what are you talking about? I said, well, yeah, I got a radio show. I says, I host a radio show. I'm going on live tonight, 5 o'clock. I says, but I can stay here and broadcast on Spreaker and iHeart and bust into a couple of stations. PIR let me bust in. People's Internet Radio let me bust in. I busted in on Awake, Shaz's radio. So we decided I would stay home. And if things got bad down there, they would call me up and we'd put them on the air right away. And that's what happened. We got a call. We interviewed, who was it? Crystal Glass, Angie Sullivan, and a couple other women who were down there. And they got kicked off the Credentials Committee. And a lot of these women knew each other back from the 2008 campaign when they were working for Hillary, And so even Hillary supporters sat down and did a sit-down protest there. And the cops came. The cops were threatening to arrest them. So you got to understand, what happened last week could not have happened if they didn't kick these people, Christine Kramer, who was the chairperson, and the only one who knew how to run the Credentialers Committee. She's the one who knows how to do it. So they had this planned all the way back then. You understand what's going on? Okay? Now, my theory is this. Hillary assumed that the race would be over way before the county convention. And, of course, way before the state convention. And they never dreamed that they would have to produce real human bodies to match all those cards that they controlled at the caucus. See? And once they realized that they had to produce bodies, okay, to match those cards, they couldn't do that unless they controlled the Credentials Committee. So that's what they had to do. They had to knock the people off the Credentials Committee. Now, by the way, there's all this talk. And by the way, too, none of this was reported anywhere, okay, about these Credential Committee getting kicked off and people getting threatened to be arrested. This was not reported anywhere in the local media or the mainstream media, nationwide media. As a matter of fact, all they did was they read a press release that was provided to them by the local DNC, okay, as if it was the news, the reality, okay? Now, I'm staying on top of this story because it was a big story. Next day, I'm talking to these people, these same women that were on the floor there threatening to be arrested. And I said, we can't talk to you because Now our jobs are being threatened. These people are making us stink at our jobs, and they're trying to get us fired from our jobs. We're talking to lawyers to keep our jobs. See, that was never reported anywhere either. I didn't even report that, okay? Because the people I would be reporting it about were worried about losing their jobs, all right? This is what really went on here in Nevada, guys. Not this crap you're seeing on TV. From either side, by the way. Because we're going to get to this, because the people they're putting on there, too, representing the Bernie delegates, are a bunch of clowns and trolls. So the next day I'm asking them, I'm saying, hey, how is this? How did they think that they were going to get away with this? And they said, well, the Hillary people, they're in a bubble. They don't understand what the people are thinking and what the delegates are thinking and how unhappy all the Democrats here locally are. They just think everything's going great. And people got to understand that the Hillary campaign headquarters here in Nevada is in the DNC headquarters. They share the same office space. Okay. Let's fast forward now to Saturday, to the state convention. Now, it met at the Paris Hotel in the Las Vegas Strip. Now, by the way, when they were deciding where to hold this convention, it was like kept a secret. It was kept a secret from the Bernie people. Okay? Because, you want to have, you rent hotels and you rent rooms and ballrooms and this, for your camp to be in there working. You want all your delegates in that hotel. You want to make a deal with the hotel and get rooms. But this was kept a secret from us. There was rumors going around about where it was going to be. Because the DNC isn't telling us. All right? Okay. That's a whole other deal. But now, get this. Remember, I was the only news outlet, okay, to report on these women being arrested and what was going on with the Credentials Committee. So now when I start contacting the DNC for press credentials, right, now they don't come right back and say, hey, you're denied. They ignore me, okay? I start calling down there. They're acting like they don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, email this guy, sboss@dnc.com. sboss, this guy. I emailed this guy 100 times. No reply, no answer, no nothing. Hey, you're denied. Hey, we never heard of you. Okay? Because I'm the only one reporting on this. Okay? Now, I know a lot of people will say, oh, Ed, you have such a big ego. You think, they just never heard of you. Okay? They've heard of me. Okay? Because 2 years ago, I hosted and moderated the sheriff's debate. I hosted and moderated the governor's debate. Okay? I've had a Democratic congresswoman on here, Cynthia McKinney. I've had Jimmy Carter's, Danny Sheehan, and argue before the Supreme Court, Jimmy Carter's transition team. Okay, argue before the Supreme Court. I've had Mary Perry, who's a local candidate here, who's right now is running for state assembly. I had Paul Godet, who was on this station, who's a local running for family court judge. Okay? Another local attorney that I worked for is running for state assembly here. Just a month ago, I was recruited down here to run for state assembly. Myself, I was recruited to run. Okay? It's not like I'm unknown here, that other people don't know I'm reporting on this stuff here in this town. But I can't get credentials. I had credentials for everything, for every presidential candidates. I'm down there covering their events in the press section. Trump, Bernie, Hillary, all of them. You go through Secret Service, they check you out. Ben Carson. Because they didn't want me there on Saturday, because I report on this stuff. I tell the truth. Okay, they had to keep me out too. Just like they had to go after the Credentials Committee. They had to keep me out too. Okay. Boy, I tell you this 1 hour segment drains me so much, man. Okay. Oh, God, look at all these notes. Okay, I'm going to play the commercial now. And then we'll get back. We'll be right back. More fun. More good times on the Opperman Report. Oh, my God. I don't know how to get into this. This is your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. And if you're enjoying this show right now, there's more. You can get more. You can go to the Ed Opperman YouTube channel, and you could subscribe there. And we have archives of all of our past shows for over the past 3 years, about 200, 300 shows. You can also go to the Opperman Report Spreaker channel, and you could follow us there. Again, a ton of shows, about 300 shows on there. And whenever we do an impromptu show, an emergency-type broadcast that we do during the week occasionally, you'll get an email notifying you of breaking news and spontaneous broadcasts that we may do during the week. You can also go to oppermanreport.com and become a member. If you become a member, you help support the free archives on Spreaker and YouTube, and you help support the free shows on Friday evening and on Saturday evening. Each of these shows, Friday evening and Saturday evening, are carried for free on 7 internet stations, okay? So you help support that, but also, too, at OppermanReport.com in the members section, we have exclusive content. Shows that are recorded during the week that are only available to members. So please check out OppermanReport.com and help support the show.
The son of a Polish immigrant who grew up in a Brooklyn tenement, Bernie Sanders. He went to public schools, then college, where the work of his life began, fighting injustice and inequality, speaking truth to power. Bernie moved to Vermont, won election and praise as one of America's best mayors. In Congress, Bernie stood up for working families and for principle, opposing the Iraq War, supporting veterans. Now he's taking on Wall Street and a corrupt political system that holds up a rigged economy. Bernie's campaign is funded by over 1 million small contributions from people like you. He's fighting for living wages, equal pay, and tuition-free public colleges. Bernie Sanders.
People are sick and tired of establishment politics, and they want real change.
Bernie Sanders. Husband, father, grandfather. An honest leader. Building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
Check out strawmanmusic.com. Sean Duff is our webmaster here at the Opperman Report, and he's a very talented musician. He's part of a band called Strawman. They're based up there in Canada. Don't hold that against them. These are like-minded folks. If you like the shows you hear on the Opperman Report, you'll like the music that they have over at strawmanmusic.com.
Enough is enough. Wall Street's greed and illegal behavior drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the 1930s. And then, after getting a huge taxpayer bailout because they were too big to fail, it turns out that 3 out of the 4 largest banks are bigger today than they were before we bailed them out. That's crazy. I'm Bernie Sanders. My plan: break up the big banks who are strangling our economy and make them pay their fair share of taxes. Then we can invest in the middle class, expand Social Security, and provide universal college education. I'll rein in Wall Street behavior so they can't crash our economy again. Will they like me? No. Will they begin to play by the rules if I'm president? You better believe it. I'm Bernie Sanders, Democratic candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
You can get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator, if you go to my website, emailrevealer.com. Now, this is a limited edition book, okay? And you can get a signed copy of this book, and it'll be personally autographed to you or whoever you want to give the book to as a gift. Once you have my signature on that book, you can copy the signature and put it on checks and pass them all over the world. Emailrevealer.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Succeed as a Private Investigator.
He's fought injustice and inequality his whole life. Bernie Sanders. As a college student, he was arrested for challenging segregated housing. Bernie marched with Dr. King and thousands of others for civil rights. In Congress, Bernie stood up for working families on health care and jobs. Now he's taking on Wall Street banks and a corrupt political system that keeps in place a rigged economy. Bernie Sanders, a reformer who believes in ending racial profiling and mass incarceration so the justice system works for everyone. Bernie Sanders.
There is no president who will fight harder to end institutional racism and reform our broken criminal justice system.
Bernie Sanders, an honest leader building a movement with you to give us a future to believe in.
I'm Bernie Sanders, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Bernie 2016.
Okay. So now we're to last week, Saturday morning, right? Now you got to understand, okay, that we won Nevada. Hillary won at the caucus, but at the first county convention, we won more delegates. The Bernie camp was victorious. They were online that morning happy because they were the winners, you see? So this idea about Bernie, angry people showing up, throwing chairs, and bringing their AK-47s and their Sandinistas and their berets and their combat fatigues and their combat boots. That's a bunch of crap. Everybody was in a good mood, man, because we were winning. And because we were ahead, the plan was they were going to go down there that morning. The first vote was going to be to throw out the whole committee and throw out all the chairmen, throw them off all, and put in Bernie people. Because we had won. Okay? But what happened was they had a vote, and you heard Ashley Cardelli describe it. The first vote that they had was before all the Bernie. It was time. The Bernie people weren't even in there yet, and they voted to throw out the vote on all the results of the county convention. They stole our votes by having a voice count vote that they lost, that everybody heard them lose. Then they rigged the credentialing, and they knocked off 64 Bernie delegates that were previously credentialed, okay, and were suddenly uncredentialed. 54 of those were not even given the opportunity to appeal the decision. These are people, guys, who drove down or flew down from Reno and Washoe and Eli 5 hours away, rented rooms, took time off from work, spent thousands of dollars to come down here to do this. Barbara Boxer wasn't booed for no reason. Play the clip. Her role was there to be an advocate for Hillary. She was a Hillary spokesperson to advocate for Hillary, not to lecture the other side that they better get in line, because we don't have to get in line. Now, okay, we're going to get into this. Good. The chair throwing. Today, Snopes.com did a report. Was there a chair thrown at the Nevada State Democratic Convention? They reported no. There was no. It was secondhand reporting by a Mr. John Ralston, okay, who live tweeted, okay, that a chair with that another reporter saw a chair thrown. Now that chair being thrown, we see the video of it now. One guy held a chair over his head and put it right down. So no chair ever left his hands. That chair lifted up in the air, became a chair thrown, became several chairs thrown, became wild violence and angry Bernie protesters, threats and intimidation and storming and doing this and doing that. But you heard from a first-hand witness here, Ashley Cardelli. I'm the only one that brought this witness forward. She's the only one that got knocked down in that day. And she's a Bernie supporter, not a female Bernie supporter, short, not really short, but short, Okay, because I thought she was someone else who's really, really short. But she's short. Knocked down by a male Hillary thug who's been known for violence in the past. Okay? A lot of other things were not reported in the media. How word through the grapevine came down that the Hillary people, I guess, should bring snacks to support them throughout the whole day. Okay, or maybe some kind of food was provided to them because the chair decided that we're not allowed to order pizza. No pizza is allowed in the place. So the Bernie people had no food. They want to starve us out, like we're Venezuelans. You know? They want to starve us out. So they always started ordering pizzas. They were ordering the cops and the security guards to take away people's pizzas. This is in America. You got a better chance to vote if you're in the Taliban in Iraq, or Afghanistan. Oh my God. Next day, people were so upset. That morning, the next day, they arranged an impromptu rally at the DNC Hillary headquarters. I grabbed Vic. I told, hey, it was Sunday morning. I says, we're not going to church. We're going to this rally. Right? So Vic rounded up a couple of her friends. We drove down there. There was about 80, 90 people when we got there. Okay. One of the people speaking, by the way, was Angie Morelli. Okay, the troll, the Facebook troll. Everyone took their turn speaking. It was very democratic. It was like an Occupy movement. Everybody took turns speaking to the crowd, trying to figure out what are we going to do next. A lot was made up of that it was written on the DNC wall. Cheating is not winning. Okay, somebody brought chalk. Everyone took a turn at writing on the sidewalks, different things on the street. In the pavement, in the parking lot. Some was on the wall, some was on the door. Okay? This will wash away with the rain. Okay, they can come out with a hose if they're so upset by they're being exposed as cheaters. They can wash it with a hose. Okay? There was no paint. There was no vandalism. It's chalk. A lot of people listen to this show. You're listening from Ireland and in South Africa. Here in America, we have a game called hopscotch, okay? And that's where little girls, mostly, will take chalk and they make these boxes outline in the sidewalk or the schoolyard with their chalk on the floor. Last I've seen, none of them have been arrested for vandalism. Not yet. Not until Hillary gets into power. And then all these children will be rounded up and put into anti-hopscotch concentration camps. That's what we're going to do. Right? And confiscate their pizzas, too. Take away their pizzas. Take their pizzas. That rally lasted all day long. It was not a violent rally. It wasn't an angry rally. I had my kid there. I was probably the angriest person there. And I'm always angry. I got to do 4 hours of radio a week. 8 hours is what I'm up to. William Ramsey booking me every 5 minutes. I can't sleep. The guy's got another guest. I love him. He's doing a great job. William Ramsey, the author of Abomination, Devil Worship in the West Memphis 3 case. Great author. Coming out with another book about Crowley. Throughout the day, about 400, 500 people attended all these rallies because after we rallied in front of the vacant Hillary campaign headquarters / DNC campaign headquarters, we went to the Bellagio and we rallied there all day long, marching up and down. So many people supported Bernie Sanders, but they had no idea that the vote was stolen the night before because it wasn't being reported on the news. There's a big debate in the chat room how to spell hopscotch. Pay attention, you guys. We're past that. Move on. We're at the rally now at the Bellagio. Wake up. It started pretty much the next day, that Monday, that all the mainstream media, MSNBC, had identical reporting of what went on. That the Bernie Sanders supporters were angry. Hillary had won. What were they angry about? She had won. And they couldn't figure out what they were doing. They didn't know how the system worked. These were the same people that worked for Hillary in 2008. But they forgot. They got hit in the head. The chalk from the hopscotch hit them in the head. They forgot how to do the credentials. Didn't know how to do it anymore. By the way, Christine Kramer, who ran the credentials committee for Hillary and then ran it for Bernie and then got kicked off, she was just nominated for the platform committee, for the National Platform Committee in Philadelphia. Okay? Congratulations, Christine. You're doing a great job. The next day, all the reporting's exactly the same. There was chairs being thrown. They were booing the great Barbara Boxer. They didn't understand the count. They couldn't get their people to show up. They were violent. They were making death threats and vandalism at the headquarters. I bet if we could have done the same chalk and hopped around, there would have been no vandalism. Just think. All you had to do is hop. You can do all the chalk you want. You got to be hopping when you do it. And it's fine. You're not hopping, it's vandalism. So keep hopping. The death threats. Oh, the death threats. One guy calls in. Now, by the way, there's no proof that anybody of these people are Bernie supporters. Because there were plenty of Hillary supporters that were angry at what was going on, too. Okay? But Roberta Lang had her recorder going. She could record all these threats. I guess I shouldn't have her caller ID going. I guess she didn't have that. Because otherwise we could identify these threatening people and have them arrested, couldn't we? And one of the most outrageous ones, one person said, karma's going to bite you in the ass. So I guess she's been threatened that someone's going to bite her. Right? Call the police. Hire your bodyguards. Okay? Then there's another one was, you should be hung. And you should go to hell. Okay. Every week in a church across this country, they're talking about going to hell. Well, let's arrest them all. Okay? Now, should you be hung? Okay. That's not a nice thing. But you know who said things like that? You should be hung? People like George Washington. Right? Max Payne, all of the founding fathers, all of the heroes, the revolutionary. They all said stuff about people being hung. So erase them out of those history books. Bad words. Now, so then, about a week of this goes on. It's relenting. Chairs being thrown, violence, threats. All of this, right? Going on and on and on and on. I'm sitting there, I'm watching MSNBC. You got Rachel Maddow. She's on there. And then she has on Ralston now, who's Ralston of Snopes.com. Okay, Ralston, the guy who came up with this rumor and tweeted it, okay, about chairs being thrown. And who do they have on there representing the Bernie Sanders side? Angie Morelli, the Facebook troll. Angie Morelli, that was thrown out of the group organizing the rally. Angie Morelli, who's probably a well-meaning kid, okay? But she's a kid. She had something to do with the Monsanto March or something like that. So now she's an activist. She's all excited. And I know a lot of people like Angie. Okay, fine, you like her. I know she's kisses everybody's butt. You can like her if you want. I've dealt with her firsthand. She's a troll. Okay? And don't think for a second that MSNBC didn't pick her out for a reason. Because she's young, naive, and they could manipulate her. And that's exactly what they did. Because now there's a clip out there of Angie Morelli when they ask her, Angie, what happened that day? Well, let me tell you what happened. There were 5,000 of the most passionate people in the valley, and they were kept in this enclosed space with little food, and there were 3 bars, and that's what happened. And they played that over and over and over and over and over again. The reason why Bernie Sanders supporters were violent and crazy and toting AK-47s and had a firing squad going on there at the convention is because they were all drunk and didn't have food. Okay? Thanks, Angie. Thanks, Angie. Great job. Doing a good job there, Brownie. Really pisses me off. Okay? I've interviewed 1,000 people. And I know, that first line, they got that line prepared in their head. And I know they took this gullible kid, this naive kid, okay? And they got her hair done, and they took it down. I don't know if she did this via satellite down at Dean Martin, or she did this they flew to New York. I don't know, okay? But I know they had her in a green room and said, well, Angie, tell us what you're going to say. Well, that's what I'm going to say. Angie, that's great. Say that. Like, I know how these people work. I've done these spots. I know how these production assistants pump you up. And they took this gullible kid, man, and they picked out a troll, and they put her on there as to represent me. No thanks. Maybe I'm a little bitter because this kid was trolling me. But that's when you watch Rachel Maddow and you see this spokesperson, this delegate, that's who it is. Okay, what I was telling you about months ago, that got kicked out of the rally organizer. Anyway, also, too, you notice over and over and over again, every show starts the same way. It starts off that they have one of the Sanders campaign people on, and what makes you think you can win? The numbers are against you, blah, 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 when you drop it out, and they're hostile to them. And then they bring in these party hacks for the rest of the show. Well, what's it going to take to get Sanders people to come around and support Hillary? And then they start talking to each other in this weird bubble where they start convincing themselves that Bernie people are going to vote for that monster, that thief, that corrupt monster that just stole their vote. Well, you just stole my vote. I'm going to give you another one. If you steal from me, I don't give you another. If you take money out of my pocket, I'm going to give you more money? No. You stole from me. We're enemies. You're never going to get a vote from me. Ever. I've been to all these Bernie rallies. These are smart people. They're not bitter people. These are happy rallies. Been to the Trump rallies, too. Those are bitter, angry people. Been to the Hillary rallies. Those are bitter, angry, naive, gullible people. A lot of old women that are just upset about everything. Same thing at Trump. A bunch of wackos. I've been to these Bernie rallies. These are smart people. These are thoughtful people. Trust me. You could go there yourself and visit them. There's no way they're voting for Hillary. No way. Maybe 20% of them will. So that's it. It's lost. Now, let's see. Oh, my God. Look at these notes. Well, there's a couple of things going on. Let me see what time it is. I can get out of here. I can't do this anymore, guys. I got to get out of here. I got to leave this country. Oh, my God. I'm going to be right next to Reverend Pinckney, man. It's out of my mind. They're going to get me. They got in for forgery. They'll get me for looking the wrong way. They get me for hopscotching. That's what they're going to put me in prison for, hopscotch. Okay. There's this weird thing out there, right? This little rule. And a lot of Republicans know about it. And this threat to bring in a third-party Republican candidate to go up against Trump. Now, did you know, if there's a third-party candidate, that there's a rule. If no candidate receives a majority of electoral votes, the House of Representatives elects the president. Paul Ryan would elect the president. Each state delegation would have one vote. But if the GOP ran a third-party candidate, then Bernie could go third party. And I think everybody would agree Bernie would win in that case. If it was Bernie against Hillary, Trump, and say Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan or someone of those whacker jobs, Bernie would kill him. In a fair race, he'd win no matter what. Hey. Okay. Got 10 minutes left. Scotch hopping, scotching hopping, whatever it is. Okay. All right. Let's see. What's going on? Okay. Got a lot of stuff going on. I got all my credentialing all lined up and set up. I'm in touch with the press people for Bernie Sanders in California and with Trump people in California. Vic's school is over in June. The plan is for us to go out there with this new equipment we got and cover all the events out there. I got to rent a car to do it. I need places to stay. If you're in California, you got a place for me to check up, let me know. So we're working on that. Got to raise money for that, guys, okay? GoFundMe/Opperman Report. You could donate at oppermanreport@gmail.com. You could become a member. In the member section, you get access to all these great free shows. A lot of stuff you could do. In October, I'm going to this event in Seattle. David Scherter is presenting there. Fiona Barnett, you might recall, she's the woman who alleges that Nicole Kidman's dad molested her. They're going to be presenting at this event. There's like piggybacking events that are combined. And I think I'm going to be presenting at both. I'm not really sure what's going on. But my presentation is going to be on Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? And I'm going to be discussing stuff that we didn't discuss tonight with Conchita Sarnoff. By the way, Conchita Sarnoff, the author of the book Traffic King, okay, a very fascinating woman. I'm hoping to have her back. But more importantly, I want to get a hold of her publisher, who's this very fascinating guy named Victor Ostrovsky. And he's written a book about deception, he's a former Mossad agent. Conchita Sarnoff's publisher, who published this book about Jeffrey Epstein, is a former Mossad agent who wrote a book about deception, using deception in order to achieve your political goals. Fascinating man. Can't wait to get him on the show, and hopefully to get Conchita Sarnoff back on the show again to get further into these details in this book. I'm going to be doing a show with Pierce Redmond and Chuck Ocelli. We think it's this Wednesday night on American Freedom Radio. We're going to be discussing the whole Epstein case with a lot of meat on Trump's involvement with Epstein, and also these new revelations about Bill Clinton being on Epstein's plane 26 times, 5 times without Secret Service protection. Okay, ditched his Secret Service squad 5 times in order to ride on Epstein's plane. Do I sound like I'm dying? Do I sound like I'm dying here tonight? Get me off the radio. Oh my God, I got 8 minutes to go. Let's see here. What's next? Okay, guys, got a big deal coming up on Monday. I am doing a Skype audition on Monday for a documentary TV series in the UK. And it's about those pushing murders in Manchester, where they push people into the water. Okay, I'm going to be the American PI that comes out there and solves the case. That's the plan anyway, right? I'll go out there and figure out what's going on. No one else can figure it out. I'll do it. But the production company is actually based here in the United States, in California. So if they like me, if I could charm their pants off, right? That's what we're hoping for. I will maybe get a gig here in the States. I won't have to fly to UK to do this thing. Not that I wouldn't love to. Tomorrow is Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. We're going to be talking about the Clintons' crime family activities in Haiti, and amongst other things. We'll get into everything. Just did an interview with Dan Zupansky, who is the podcaster behind True Murder. Okay, a very popular podcast, and that's going to be in the member section for now, but I'm going to try and get that out to you quickly as I can. Kevin Sullivan's coming back to talk about Ted Bundy. James D. Sanders going to be talking about TWA 800. You might recall my former partner. Was the NYPD Harbor Aviation scuba diver that pulled up a lot of that debris from TWA 800. And I know all those guys who were on that. In fact, there's a Discovery Channel documentary that you can watch. You can still find it on YouTube if you look up NYPD Harbor Aviation. And these are the guys that pulled up all that debris, and they all thought it was a missile. Off the record. Brad Schreiber is a friend of Peter Dale Scott, and he wrote a book about Patty Hearst and the SLA and mind control and Vacaville Prison and a lot of good stuff. This is the show this is my theory behind Patty Hearst and the SLA, that I've always wanted to do a show about this. I've never had a guest who could do it. And now we got Brad Schreiber because Peter Dale Scott hooked us up with him. By the way, Peter Dale Scott wants me to call him up and write him a note about my my meeting with Mark David Chapman. So I'm looking forward to that because he says he wants to write about it. Montgomery Blair Sibley. He was the attorney for the D.C. Madam Deborah Jean Palfrey. And recently he sent me a copy of his motion that had a portion of her cell phone records. And she's talking to the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. These are her business phone where she's doing her prostitution business on. She's talking to the Archdiocese, the big giant arms manufacturers and military companies, and what do you want to call them? No, my former partner's probably not coming on the show. Nobody likes me anymore. Nobody talks to me anymore. Everybody hates me. I got a guest who knew Paul McCartney and the Beatles, interviewed them about 100 times, and he has these audio recordings of Paul McCartney's relatives saying that Paul McCartney is a bully and it's mean to them. So that's coming up. Okay, let's looking forward to that one. Oh my God, he's a cool guy though. He's an old guy, and he's gonna be coming on the show and giving us a lot of inside. I guess you might call it inside. You might call it inside dirt. You can call it inside information, whatever you want to call it, but it's inside. Oh, I'm going to be a guest on the Lorna Poole show. Now, this is a show in Ireland, and we're going to be talking about relationships and infidelity investigations and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So that's pretty much a mainstream type of show, you know. So that's coming up soon. And then we're going to be doing Chuck Ocelli on Wednesday. And William Ramsey just sent me some stuff, not even right before we went on the show, but some other guests coming up. Let me see if I can pull that up. Because it was something good, too. Oh, Marcia Clark. She wants to come on the show. She's doing some kind of a documentary with the ESPN, so we have to hold off on that a bit. Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Richard Stratton, who's the author of Smuggler's Blues and Altered States of America. That's a big guest coming up, too. So, a lot of good stuff, guys. So, you know, if you like that good stuff, in order to keep it going, there's two ways to do it. You sign up, you become a member in the members section, or you can send a little, what do you call it? You can send a little donation to oppermanreport@gmail.com, so we can really, really get this thing going to start filming these documentaries. I think I can get Peter Dale Scott. If I go out to California, I think I can nag him. I got his home phone number. I think I can nag him and get a day with him to film with him just for like an hour. I'm not expecting a big deal with him. But I really want to get out there for like 2 days, 3 days, and film with Hank Harrison about his whole life, about Kenneth Anger, and about the Kinsey and the electric Kool-Aid acid test, and about all these guys, man. Come on. You know, it's great stuff there about Courtney Love and her childhood. So, and I think that would just make a fascinating documentary. Also, too, I'm in talks with this guy to do a documentary in New York City about the Son of Sam crimes and the Process Church down there. These are people firsthand involved, victims of the crimes and stuff like that. And we're trying to put that together, too. But that would be a whole other thing, too, to get all the way out there and overcome some kind of obstacles going on there. Okay, one more thing. People, please, if you need me for any kind of PI work, go to the website, emailrevealer.com. If you want to buy the book, you go to emailrevealer.com. If you want to talk to me about the show, you go to oppermanreport.com. Please try not to be, you buy a book over at Email Revealer, then you contact me over on Opperman Report, or vice versa. You want a PI job and you contact. It's making a big mess out of things, guys. And there's a lot of demands for my time that I'm really getting overwhelmed by a lot of this repetitious kind of stuff. I'm trying to help everybody out as much as I can, and you have no idea. Okay, I had some friend of mine, her father was missing for 3 days, and we were running around finding it. People come to me for a lot of favors and a lot of help on a lot of different stuff, and I try and do what I can. But it's I'm doing the best I can, guys. You got to give me a little bit of a break here. All right, see you tomorrow, Cynthia McKinney, 5 o'clock on Pacifica People's Internet Radio, Public Streaming Network, Awake and Shaziz, and also American Freedom Radio. Good night.